Chosen one, you've been wondering why the silence in your life has been so loud, why the isolation has lasted this long, and why it feels like no one truly sees you. But I need you to hear me clearly. This loneliness was not a mistake. It was not punishment, rejection, or abandonment. It was divine separation. I isolated you so I could insulate you. I pulled you away not to break you, but to build you. While others were distracted by noise, I was speaking to you in stillness. While you begged for companionship, I was preparing you for consecration. You didn't lose people, they were removed. You didn't miss opportunities, they were postponed. Every time you sat in silence wondering if you were forgotten, I was marking you for something greater. There's a reason no one fit. There's a reason you could never fully blend in. Because I didn't call you to blend, I called you to blaze. I didn't wire you to seek crowds. I designed you to carry weight in solitude. The weight of revelation, the weight of intercession, the weight of spiritual authority. Your solitude was strategic. The very things that made you feel alone were the markers of your calling. You saw too much, felt too deep, sensed too far ahead, and they couldn't go with you because they couldn't carry what you carry. Don't mistake their absence for a void. Their absence is confirmation. I've been stripping away every false connection so you could hear my voice without interruption. You were never abandoned, you were appointed. When others were building platforms, I was building your spirit. When others were chasing applause, I was anchoring you in obedience. Your secret tears weren't wasted. They were watering the soil of your destiny. I know it felt like loss, but it was preparation. I know it felt like heartbreak, but it was holy. You weren't overlooked, you were hidden on purpose. I kept you low so when I lift you, no one else can claim the credit. Every unanswered call, every empty room, every lonely night, ordained. The very isolation you tried to escape was the womb that birthed your mantle. You weren't meant to grow in public. You were meant to be formed in the secret place. I needed you quiet so you could hear the sound of your assignment. I needed you still so you could feel the weight of your anointing. And I needed you separate so I could set you apart completely. You are not like them. Stop expecting to be understood by those who don't carry your call. Stop craving connection with what I already cut off. You're not weird. You're wired for wonder. You're not abandoned. You're anointed. I didn't isolate you to harm you. I did it to heal you, to deliver you from needing validation so you could walk in authority, to free you from codependence so you could depend solely on me. What felt like exile was elevation in disguise. What looked like a delay was a divine timeline. The silence wasn't the absence of my voice. It was the setup for revelation. Chosen one, now you'll understand why you had to be alone. Because what's coming next is too heavy for those not ordained. Because what I'm giving you requires a foundation that isn't built in crowds. It's forged in caves. Because what you're about to carry must be guarded by consecration. You're not late, you're launched. You're not broken, you're branded. This is your emergence. And now that you've been set apart, nothing can stop what I'm about to do through you. Chosen one, there's something sacred about the nights you cried and no one knew. Every tear you shed in silence was a conversation with me. I saw it all, the unanswered texts, the cancelled plans, the way your heart longed to belong while your spirit knew it couldn't settle. That tug of war between wanting connection and needing consecration. That was me. I didn't let them include you. I didn't allow you to blend in. Because you weren't born for acceptance, you were born for alignment. And I'm not raising you to be liked. I'm raising you to be light. You felt forgotten, but you were being hidden in plain sight. I let them forget your name so they'd never take credit for your rise. I let them misjudge your silence so you'd be forced to find my voice. The very people you once begged to stay, did you notice how quiet they got when your call got louder? That's no accident. Your absence from their spaces created the space for my presence. You stopped needing them when you finally started needing me more. You stopped explaining yourself because your spirit outgrew their capacity. What you thought was rejection was actually protection. You were never being left behind, you were being pulled ahead. While they were building moments, I was building momentum. While they sought influence, I was shaping intimacy. Because what I'm doing in you, I couldn't let them distract. What I'm placing on you, they couldn't carry. You weren't set aside, you were set apart. You're not the misfit, you're the marked. And the loneliness wasn't punishment, it was preservation. I kept you hidden to keep you holy. Let me make this clear. They couldn't go where you're going because they couldn't see what you've seen. They didn't hear what you heard in prayer. They didn't feel what burned in your bones. That's why they left. That's why it ended. Because I am calling you to walk where others wouldn't survive. Your isolation trained you to trust me completely. Your loneliness forced you to hear me clearly, and your separation has positioned you perfectly. Now, what once felt like exile will become evidence of elevation. Let's lock this in. Hit like if this is resonating with you. Subscribe so you never miss a word like this again. And drop 55 in the comments. It's your code of covenant, new beginnings, and divine alignment. You see, I had to break your need for belonging before I gave you the mantle of authority. You can't crave crowds and carry crossfire. You can't seek validation and walk in vision. What I've deposited in you is too rare to be recognized by the common eye. That's why the friendships faded. That's why the conversations dried up. Because they couldn't hear the frequency I've tuned you to. I've been sanctifying your spirit, clearing the static, setting you up to hear me without interference. This isn't just about who left. It's about what I'm about to release. The oil I'm pouring over you can't be shared with unclean hands. The power I'm awakening in you can't be explained to shallow minds. You've outgrown explanations. You've outgrown needing to be understood. And now finally you are positioned for the outpouring. The silence gave birth to substance. The isolation created increase. And your obedience in the quiet is now pulling the heavens open above you. Chosen one, I'm raising you without applause. I'm building you without cheers. Because your affirmation doesn't come from them. It comes from me. You've learned how to walk alone, and now you're ready to walk with me, no longer bound by approval, no longer distracted by comparison. This loneliness was a pruning, and now you're about to bear fruit others only dreamed of. You've been set apart for impact, prepared in obscurity, and now the world will witness what I formed in the quiet. Chosen one, you've wondered if something was wrong with you. Why you feel too much, why others move on so quickly while you linger in moments no one else noticed. That's not emotional weakness, it's prophetic sensitivity. I wired you with depth so you could discern what others dismiss. I gave you eyes to see what's beneath the surface and ears to hear what hasn't yet been spoken, but depth isolates, insight separates. I've called you to walk a narrow road, and narrow roads don't leave room for crowds. You were never meant to be understood by the masses. You were meant to be trusted with mysteries. You kept trying to explain your heart, hoping someone would finally say, I get it. But they couldn't, because what you carry can't be comprehended by those not called. The loneliness wasn't because you're too much, it's because you're exactly enough for what I've assigned. You feel different because you are. You've been set apart to perceive, to intercede, to carry burdens heaven never entrusted to anyone else around you. Stop measuring your belonging by human relationships when I've marked you for divine responsibility. Your life hasn't followed their timelines because it was never supposed to. You've felt behind, but you've been in divine sync. While others rushed, I rooted you. While they built platforms, I built patience. Because when I release you, it won't be shallow influence. It will be unshakable authority. You don't need to catch up. You need to continue. Because what I've started in you, I will finish. And I never rush what I intend to last. I've made you wait because I intend to reveal you with weight. And this weight, it's holy. It's the kind that can't be faked or borrowed. It comes from nights of wrestling, mornings of weeping, and years of walking alone while still believing. You've carried promises with no proof. You've warred in prayer with no witness. That's why your voice has power, because your silence was submission. Every no you said when it would have been easier to say yes, every moment you chose consecration over compromise became a brick in the altar I'm now about to set on fire. Chosen one, I need you to know your loneliness never meant you were disqualified. It meant you were trusted. I don't isolate the weak, I isolate the weighty. I don't separate the forgotten, I separate the forged. What I've placed inside you is combustible, and I couldn't let anyone mishandle it. You've been hidden because you're holy, covered because you're called, set apart because what's coming out of you carries heaven's sound. And now the time is near where the very silence you've endured will become the platform of your testimony. You didn't fit in because I didn't let you. You were never meant to reflect culture. You were meant to confront it. You were never meant to entertain crowds. You were meant to awaken the remnant. That ache you feel when you try to settle, that restlessness is revelation. You can't settle because your spirit knows it's assigned. You can't go back to blending in because your light won't let you shrink. This is not your undoing, it's your unveiling. You are not fading, you're forming. The pain of loneliness was the pressure that broke you out of needing people to prop you up. And now your strength isn't borrowed, it's built. It's built from nights no one saw, from prayers no one heard, from pain no one understood. But I understood. I was there, and I was working. Every unanswered moment was strategic. Every delayed connection was divine. I've been setting you apart, not to punish you, but to prepare you for a release that demands nothing less than full surrender. You're not being left behind. You're being launched with precision. When I elevate you, it won't be shallow success. It will be kingdom impact. And the reason I let you feel the ache of aloneness is because I needed you anchored in me, not applause. In what's coming, crowds will gather, but your confidence will remain in the secret place. You've been trained in stillness, and that's what will keep you steady in the storm. Chosen one, your loneliness was ordained. Now your emergence will be unstoppable. Chosen one, I know the silence wore on your soul. You prayed for community, begged for someone to understand you, but all you got was more silence, more space, more stripping. And yet, you didn't quit. You stayed. Even when no one called, even when the room was empty, even when you questioned whether I still heard you, you stayed. And that obedience, that persistence in isolation has moved heaven. You didn't realize it, but every time you worshiped through the loneliness, you were shaking spiritual foundations. Every silent yes carried more weight than 1,000 shouted praises from crowded platforms. You didn't fold when they walked away. You didn't retaliate when you were misunderstood. Instead, you pressed deeper. You leaned into me. And that leaning is why you're still standing. You may not have had a shoulder to cry on, but you had a foundation to stand on. You may not have had arms to hold you, but you had promises to anchor you. This isn't just survival. This is sanctification. I've used the silence to purify your motives. I've used the space to protect your oil. What they called loneliness was really holiness. You're not missing out. You're being molded. You're not behind. You're being built. And the delay you've been questioning is the very evidence that I'm not releasing you until you're fully refined. I won't rush your process just to prove something to people who never saw you in the process. This emergence will not be a trend. It will be a testimony. You'll walk in power because you were willing to walk in pain. You'll carry authority because you didn't abort the process when it got hard. Every moment of isolation has been a moment of impartation. You don't need them to validate what I've already sealed. You don't need confirmation when you've been given consecration. What I'm doing in you isn't for their comfort, it's for my kingdom. And that's why it had to be this way. I've silenced the distractions so you could finally hear your own roar. I've emptied your circle so you could finally see your true calling. You've been asking, why am I so alone? And I've been answering, because you're being anointed alone. This oil isn't corporate, it's custom. Chosen one, let me remind you of what's ahead. Because of your obedience in isolation, I'm about to release acceleration. What took others years will unfold for you in moments. What was delayed is about to be delivered. Not because you forced it, but because you trusted me enough not to force anything. Your stillness has made room for my strategy. Your patience has prepared you for my promise. And now, the very areas where you felt most alone are about to become the arenas of your greatest influence. You've passed the tests others never knew you took, the tests of silence, of invisibility, of restraint. You passed when you chose purity over popularity. You passed when you stayed planted while others ran ahead, and I took note. Heaven has recorded every moment of your private faithfulness, and now public fruit is inevitable. I'm not just rewarding you, I'm releasing you. You were never waiting for them to come around. You were waiting for me to say now, and chosen one, now has come. I am opening doors. Loneliness prepared you to walk through with character. I am placing you in rooms. Isolation taught you how to stand in without shrinking. You didn't endure in vain. You didn't lose just to lose. You lost to learn. You wept to be washed. You waited to be equipped. And now, the preparation you never asked for will birth the elevation you can't deny. Your life is about to shift because you let me strip what couldn't come with you. Chosen one, this is your moment of emergence, and when it happens, it won't be subtle. The same silence that kept you hidden will now announce you with fire. The same loneliness that tried to break you will now bow to the oil it produced. You are not who you were, and that's the proof. You stayed through the pruning. You endured the wilderness. And now, the roar that's been building in the silence is about to be released with power. Chosen one, let me remind you why I separated you. It wasn't because you were flawed, it was because you were favored. When I saw what I placed inside you, I knew I had to protect it from contamination. I had to keep your spirit clean from the noise of the crowd, the comparisons, the compromises. You've been through seasons where it felt like everyone else had someone, but you had nothing but me. And yet, that's where the fire was born. That's where the depth was carved. While they laughed, you labored. While they gathered, you grew. I didn't let them see you because they would have mishandled you. I didn't let them choose you because you would have chosen comfort over calling. I've guarded you even from yourself. There were doors I refused to open because they led to distraction. There were people I pulled away because they couldn't walk in covenant. Every no was me saying, "You're worth more." Every ending was a setup for a sacred beginning. You weren't losing, you were learning. Learning to trust me. Learning to listen. Learning to walk alone until you knew how to walk with purpose. Don't look back, chosen one. Don't long for what I've removed. You've crossed over now. You've stepped into a season where obedience is your oxygen and clarity is your covering. I'm not giving you what you asked for. I'm giving you what you were born for. You didn't even know how deep I was taking you. That's why I had to silence the noise. That's why I had to delay the arrival of what others got early. Because you're not built for flashes. You're built for fire. You're not built for moments. You're built for movement. They didn't understand you and they weren't supposed to. You're not explainable when you've been marked by mystery. Your obedience made you an enigma. And that's why I love you. You said yes when it didn't make sense. You stayed close when others walked away. And now I'm about to do something in your life that will silence every voice that ever questioned your anointing. You're not just a survivor of loneliness, you're a steward of glory. The ache you felt was the cracking of the vessel I'm now filling with fire. Chosen one, I see the moments you almost gave up. I see the times you questioned if it was worth it. But here you are, still believing, still standing, still seeking me. And that is what makes you unstoppable. I'm about to turn your private endurance into public evidence. I'm about to make your name echo in places your feet haven't even touched yet. Not for your glory, but for mine. Because when they ask how you got here, your answer will be simple. God set me apart. That's the sentence hell fears most. The warfare wasn't a mistake. It was a mirror. It showed you who you really are. You don't need a stage to be powerful. You don't need applause to be effective. You've been molded in the cave so you can command in the open. You've been processed in pain so you can prophesy with power. You don't speak from theory, you speak from trenches. And that's why your words will carry weight. Because they're not just words, they're wounds healed into wisdom. I didn't forget you. I forged you. I didn't reject you. I refined you. And now, the loneliness that once threatened to break you has built a sanctuary in your spirit that can't be shaken. You know my voice now. You've felt my presence in the silence. And that intimacy is your weapon. It's what will sustain you when the crowds come. It's what will anchor you when influence grows. Because you didn't build your life on being seen, you built it on being sent. Chosen one, your set-apart season is now your signature. It's the proof that you are not common. You are called. You are not overlooked. You are overqualified by heaven's standards. And now every tear, every ache, every silent night becomes the backdrop for the glory I'm about to reveal. You were set apart for this. You were ordained to stand out. And from this moment on, your isolation becomes your introduction. Chosen one, the reason I let you walk through the valley of loneliness was because I needed you to lose everything that made you dependent on them. You were never meant to draw strength from shallow support. You were designed to pull power from my presence. So I stripped away the affirmations. I silenced the echoes. I let the rooms grow empty. Because if you had found comfort there, you would have missed the covenant here. I wasn't being cruel. I was being precise. I don't allow separation unless I'm making room for sanctification. You wanted connection, but I gave you consecration. You asked for friends, but I gave you fire. And now you understand. What you carry can't be carried by the casual. What's in you is too costly to be shared with the uncommitted. So I let the silence speak. I let the empty chairs preach. And now, with nothing but me left, you've finally seen what I've been building in you all along. Not a personality, not a platform, but a presence that can't be denied, a spirit that can't be shaken, a clarity that can't be stolen. You're no longer waiting for them to see you. You're walking in what I've shown you. You've stopped explaining your anointing and started embracing your assignment. That's the shift. That's the power of being set apart. You stopped apologizing for your calling. You stopped asking for permission to be powerful. And now heaven is echoing what hell already fears. The silence didn't shut you down, it set you on fire. You were alone long enough to realize you never needed the noise to validate your voice. You've carried promises in the dark with no proof. You've prayed with tears on your pillow when no one saw. And every one of those moments was a brick in the altar I'm now igniting. You're not rising from a place of comfort. You're rising from the crucible. You've been refined. You've been tested. And now, chosen one, you're being trusted. I'm placing weight on you not because you're popular, but because you're proven. You endured the empty seasons with integrity. You waited without compromising. And that posture, quiet, faithful, hidden, is now unlocking what couldn't be rushed. They didn't hear your groans, but I did. They didn't see your restraint, but I recorded it. And now, the reward that's coming isn't random. It's righteous. You're stepping into rooms loneliness prepared you for. You're walking through doors silence secured for you. No connections, no manipulation, just favor that can't be explained, and glory that can't be denied. You weren't waiting on a breakthrough. The breakthrough was waiting on you to stop needing people to go with you. This is what being set apart looks like. Not isolation for suffering's sake, but for saturation. I saturated you with truth. I filled you with discernment. I clothed you in fire. And now your steps are ordered by wisdom that only wilderness produces. You can't be fooled by flattery anymore. You can't be swayed by clout, because I've shown you what it feels like to walk with me, and now everything else feels like noise. That's the power of your loneliness. It made you loyal to me. Chosen one, your strength doesn't come from never being weak. It comes from never being alone in your weakness. I held you when no one else knew you were breaking. I carried you when even your own voice went silent. And that carrying season wasn't just survival, it was sculpting. I've shaped you into someone unrecognizable to your past. And now, your future will be undeniable. The silence built your structure. The loneliness built your roots. And now I'm building your reach. Don't despise your solitude. It was sacred. Don't mourn the empty places. They're now altars. You're not missing anything. Everything you need is already in motion. And everything that left was never part of the promise. You've been set apart, not sidelined. And now what I release in your life won't require you to chase anything. It will find you, flood you, and fill the void the world could never touch. Because I am the one who ordained your loneliness, and I am the one bringing you into overflow. Chosen one, I need you to hear this with clarity. This is the season where the separation starts to make sense. What once felt like rejection is about to reveal itself as redirection. I didn't keep people from you. I kept you for something greater. You weren't denied. You were preserved. And the fruit of that preservation is about to break open. You've walked with your head low for so long thinking maybe you missed it. But I tell you now, you didn't miss anything. You've been right on time, moving in step with me even when the path was invisible. The reason the loneliness hurt so deeply is because your heart was pure. You weren't seeking control, you were seeking connection, but I couldn't let you tether yourself to what couldn't carry your call. You didn't lose relationships, you were loosed from restraints. And that freedom? That's what's now birthing the fullness of your assignment. You didn't know it, but I was pruning even when you were pleading. cutting away everything that dulled your edge, that clouded your vision, that pulled you back toward the ordinary. I never meant for you to be normal. I meant for you to be holy. And now, the unveiling begins. I'm turning the silence into strategy. I'm turning the hidden pain into heavenly power. The nights you spent in tears will now be the oil poured over others. The isolation that shaped you will now be the revelation you carry. You don't just have a testimony, you are a testimony. Of endurance, of surrender, of what it looks like when someone refuses to let go even when everything says quit. Hell threw its best shot, and you're still here, not bitter, not broken, but burning. Let's pause right here and make this real. Smash that like button if this is hitting your spirit. Subscribe so you don't miss the next word God sends your way. Then comment 55. That's your number of covenant, new beginnings, and divine alignment. Chosen one. I've assigned angels to guard your path, not just from enemies, but from distractions that looked like comfort. There were some opportunities I let slip through your hands, not because you were unqualified, but because they were too small for what I've prepared. You've been thinking too low, expecting too little. The reason the silence lingered is because the promise is massive, and I had to get your mind to match your mantle. You can't carry this kind of glory and still cling to small expectations. What's coming is heavy, and you're finally ready. I didn't give you the loneliness to break you, I gave it to bless you, so you'd stop waiting for permission and start walking in power. So you'd stop begging to be seen and start burning to be sent. You're not here to fill space, you're here to flip atmospheres. That's why I isolated you. That's why I shut the doors. Because I was building someone who wouldn't crumble when the weight of purpose hit. And now you've been fire-tested and spirit-sealed. You're not stepping into favor, you're becoming favor. Everything that left made room for everything that matters. You're about to watch me restore, not by bringing back what was, but by releasing what should have always been. True covenant, divine relationships, alignment that produces acceleration, and you'll know it when it comes, because it won't drain you. It'll echo me. You won't have to explain your depth. They'll meet you there. You won't have to beg for space. They'll honor your oil. Because now, your tribe isn't the crowd, it's the called. And here's the truth. They'll wonder where you came from, how you carry so much after walking through so little support. But the answer will be clear. You came from the silence. You came from the secret place. You were shaped in solitude and raised in revelation. And now, you're being released in power. Not to impress, but to impact. Not to fit in, but to transform. The loneliness was your cocoon. And what's about to emerge is an authority they won't see coming. You are the sign. You are the shift. You are the scent. Chosen one, as I bring this word to completion, I want you to understand your loneliness was never wasted. Every moment of silence, every room you sat in alone, every season of wondering why you were unseen, it was all part of my orchestration. I ordained that isolation to strip away the voices that diluted your discernment. I let you sit in spaces that felt barren because I was teaching you how to feast in famine. And now, you don't just carry survival, you carry strategy. You don't just walk with history, you walk in holy fire. The silence was sacred, and it has produced something in you the world isn't ready for, but it desperately needs. You've been wondering if you'll ever feel understood. But chosen one, I never called you to be understood. I called you to be obedient. I didn't form you to fit. I formed you to function. And that function is prophetic. That function is disruptive. That function breaks patterns, dismantles darkness, and ushers in revelation. Stop looking for common ground when I've built you for holy ground. Your loneliness was the blueprint for your authority. You were shaped in shadow so you could shine in power. And now no one can convince you that you need anything but my voice to move forward. The ache you once carried in solitude has now become the anointing you release in power. You no longer see the silence as punishment. You see it as proof. Proof that I've been near. Proof that I've been speaking. Proof that I trusted you with a wilderness most would have walked away from. You stayed. You wept. You waited. And now, the wait has weight. Your steps are ordered. Your future is opening. And nothing in your past disqualifies what I'm about to place in your hands. You are not empty. You are not delayed. You are not alone. You are chosen, you are holy, you are full of fire and dripping with oil. And from this moment forward, every room you enter will feel the residue of your time alone with me. You won't have to announce your arrival. Your presence will carry power. You won't need to explain your journey. Your fruit will reveal the fire. You've walked through the silence and now you will roar with authority. I'm not restoring what you lost. I'm releasing what I've reserved. You're not returning to who you were. You're becoming what I spoke. And every ounce of your loneliness was me, setting you apart. For now.